Step into the heart of New Mexico's ancient mysteries, where the past rises from stone and desert. At Chaco Culture National Historical Park, massive stone great houses, straight roads stretching across the desert, and precise solar alignments reveal the genius of a civilization that thrived over 1,000 years ago and then vanished. Just north, Aztec Ruins National Monument offers a glimpse into a community that carried Chacoan traditions forward, with carefully constructed rooms, grand ceremonial kivas, and a network of spaces that hint at life, ritual, and trade in an ancient world still full of questions. Further southwest, Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument hides small, ingenious homes tucked inside natural caves, where families lived in harmony with rugged cliffs and flowing rivers, only to leave after a few decades. Together, these sites invite exploration, awe, and wonder, offering a journey into the ingenuity, mystery, and resilience of the peoples who shaped the Southwest long before us. Chaco Culture National Historical Park. Close your eyes for a second and picture this. You're standing in the middle of a wide desert canyon in northwest New Mexico. The sun is bright, the air is dry. There's almost no sound except the wind brushing against ancient stone walls. In front of you rises a massive structure, hundreds of rooms stacked in curved lines, built over 1,000 years ago. No machines, no metal tools, no written language left behind to explain it. This is Chaco Culture National Historical Park, and it might be one of the greatest mysteries in North America. More than 1,000 years ago, this canyon was not empty. It was alive. Between about 850 and 1250 CE, Chaco became the center of a powerful world. Huge stone buildings called Great Houses were built here. The largest, Pueblo Bonito, had over 600 rooms and multiple stories. Think about that scale for a moment. In the middle of a desert. What makes this even stranger is the location. Chaco Canyon is dry. Water is limited. Farming is difficult. There are no big rivers running through it. So why would anyone choose this place to build a massive center of power? That's the first mystery. The second mystery is how they built it. The walls are made of carefully shaped sandstone blocks. They're stacked in patterns that look almost decorative. The construction is so precise that many of the walls are still standing after 1,000 years of wind, rain, and heat. But here's where it gets wild. The roofs of these buildings were supported by huge wooden beams, thousands of them, and those trees did not grow in the canyon. Scientists studied tree rings and discovered the wood came from mountain forests over 50 miles away. Some from even farther. So imagine this. People cut down massive trees in distant mountains. They shaped them, then they carried them by hand across rough desert land, without horses, without wheels, without metal carts. Why go through that much effort? Chaco wasn't just a single settlement. It was the center of a network. Straight roads stretched out from the canyon like spokes on a wheel. These roads were wide, sometimes over 30 feet across, and they were incredibly straight. They didn't curve around hills. They didn't follow rivers. They cut directly across the landscape. Some roads connect to other ancient communities. Others seem to go nowhere. They just end at cliffs or empty land. Why build roads that don't clearly lead to a destination? Some experts believe these were ceremonial roads. Maybe they were symbolic paths, not just physical ones. Maybe walking them was part of spiritual practice. But no one knows for sure. And then there's the sky. At Chaco, buildings are aligned with the sun and moon. Certain doorways and windows line up perfectly with solstices. During specific times of the year, sunlight passes through openings and lands on exact spots inside roofs. At Frajada Butte, a tall rock formation in the canyon, there is something known as the sun dagger. On the summer solstice, a thin beam of light slices directly through a spiral carved into stone. On other important days, light touches different parts of the symbol. That kind of accuracy takes deep understanding of astronomy. So now we have desert builders who are engineers, planners, and sky watchers. But wait, there's more. Inside Pueblo Bonito, archaeologists found traces of cacao, chocolate. That plant grows in tropical climates far south of New Mexico. They also found scarlet macaw feathers, bright red tropical birds from Mexico and Central America. This means Chaco was connected to trade networks stretching hundreds, maybe over 1,000 miles away. This wasn't an isolated desert village. It was powerful, influential, organized. So what happened? Around 1250 CE, things changed. The physics of Mexico lied by. The canyons slowly emptied. Construction stopped. Rooms were sealed. Fires went cold. There's no strong evidence of massive war. No clear signs of invasion. The buildings weren't burned down. People simply left. One explanation is drought. Tree ring data shows long periods of little rain during the late 1100 and early 1200. Farming in a desert is already risky. Without stable rain, crops fail. Food becomes scarce. But drought alone might not explain everything. Other areas survived dry periods. Why did Chaco collapse so completely? Some researchers think the social system may have broken down. Chaco might have depended on surrounding communities sending goods, labor, and food into the canyon. If those communities struggled with drought, they may have stopped supporting the center. If the power structure depended on resources flowing in, once that flow stopped, the system may have collapsed. Another idea is that Chaco was mainly a ceremonial center, not a city where everyone lived year-round. Maybe people gathered there for rituals and political events. If belief systems changed or leadership weakened, people may have chosen to stop gathering. Here's something important. For modern Pueblo tribes, Chaco is not a mystery. It is part of their ancestral story. Oral traditions speak of migrations, of movement, of cycles. From that perspective, leaving was not collapse, it was transition. And that changes how we see it. Now let's talk about the present. Chaco Culture National Historical Park is protected today. The National Park Service manages it carefully. Visitors can walk among the ruins, but climbing on fragile walls is not allowed. Some areas are restricted to prevent damage. One of the most beautiful positives today is the night sky. Chaco is far from big cities, and it is certified as an international dark sky park. At night, the stars explode across the sky. You can see the Milky Way clearly. It feels almost the same as it must have felt 1,000 years ago. Research continues. New technology helps scientists learn without digging as much. There is more respect now for native voices and traditions connected to the site. But there are negative pressures too. Climate change is real in the southwest. Stronger storms, sudden heavy rains, and temperature extremes slowly damage ancient stone. Flash floods cut into the canyon floor. Wind erodes walls, grain by grain. There are also oil and gas developments in areas around Greater Chaco lands. While Nopiri, tourism is another double-edged sword. Visitors bring funding and awareness, but too many footsteps can wear down fragile ground. Park managers constantly balance protection with access. Standing in Chaco today, you feel something powerful. It's not just the buildings, it's the questions. How did they organize such large projects without written records left behind? How did they manage trade across huge distances? Why choose such a harsh environment for a center of power? And why walk away? In my opinion, the most amazing part of Chaco is not the mystery of collapse. It's the proof of human ability. People worked together on a massive scale. They studied the sky. They built for generations. They created something that still stands after 1,000 years. That is not primitive. That is brilliant. And maybe the lesson isn't about failure. Maybe it's about change. When the environment shifted, when conditions became harder, they adapted by moving on. Today, Chaco Culture National Historical Park remains open and protected, but fragile. The walls still rise from the desert floor. The roads still stretch outward. The stars still shine above the canyon. Archaeologists continue studying. Native communities remain connected to the land. Development debates continue in surrounding regions. The mystery remains unsolved. And maybe that's why it still pulls us in. Because in the quiet of that canyon, surrounded by ancient stone and endless sky, you can almost feel the presence of a world that once was and still refuses to fully explain itself. Aztec Ruins National Monument. Imagine walking through a quiet town in northern New Mexico. Cars pass on a nearby road. A river flows not far away. Everything feels normal. And then suddenly, rising from the earth, you see massive stone walls, ancient, silent, and older than the country itself. This is Aztec Ruins National Monument. And no, it has nothing to do with the Aztecs of Mexico. That name is one of the first mysteries. When American settlers found the ruins in the 1800s, they believed the Aztecs must have built them. They were wrong. The real builders were Ancestral Pueblo people, closely connected to the culture of Chaco Canyon. Right away, the name itself tells you something about history. Even in modern times, we misunderstood this place. Aztec Ruins was built around 1100 CE, just as Chaco Canyon was beginning to decline. That timing alone makes this site mysterious. Was Aztec a replacement? A backup center of power? Or was it built by people who moved north after leaving Chaco? When you step inside the main complex, often called the West Ruin, you see over 400 rooms arranged in a large rectangular shape around a central courtyard. The layout feels organized and powerful. The stones are carefully shaped and stacked. The craftsmanship looks familiar if you've seen Chaco. That's not a coincidence. The style of building here is strongly connected to Chacoan architecture. The same core and veneer stonework, the same planning, the same careful alignment. It feels like Chaco's fingerprint is all over this place. But here's the question. If Chaco was collapsing due to drought and stress, why build something new and large here? Why invest so much effort again? Aztec Ruins sits near the Animas River, which provides more stable water than Chaco Canyon. That could be one reason. Better farming, better resources, a safer place to grow. Inside the complex is one of the most impressive features, the Great Kiva. It's a large circular ceremonial structure, built partly underground. Today, it has been reconstructed so visitors can step inside and see what it may have looked like. Thick wooden beams stretch across the ceiling. The room feels enclosed, quiet, powerful. But here's what makes it mysterious. Why build such a massive ceremonial space? Who gathered here? Was this the new spiritual center after Chaco? Or was it something different? Archaeologists found signs that the site went through different phases. After the original builders, later groups moved in and modified rooms. Walls were sealed, new spaces were created. That suggests change. maybe even tension. There is also evidence of burning in parts of the complex. Some rooms show signs of fire damage. Was this accidental? Intentional? Part of a ritual closure? Or evidence of conflict? No one can say for sure. Another strange detail is how carefully some rooms were closed off. Doorways were blocked with stone. Spaces were sealed almost respectfully. It doesn't look rushed or violent. It feels planned. That creates another big question. Did the people leave peacefully? Or are they responding to something we don't fully understand? Some experts believe that after Chaco's influence weakened, regional centers like Aztec may have tried to hold power together. But over time, the larger system of connected communities may have broken apart. Climate stress continued. Social systems shifted. People moved toward the Rio Grande Valley, where many Pueblo communities live today. Aztec ruins might represent a final chapter in the Chacoan world. And yet, it's not just about politics and power. It's also about daily life. When you walk through the rooms, you notice how small many of them are. These weren't grand halls for comfort. They were practical. Storage rooms, living spaces, work areas. Life here required effort. Farming, grinding corn, crafting tools, maintaining buildings. Imagine waking up inside those stone walls, hearing footsteps in the courtyard, smelling smoke from cooking fires, listening to leaders speak in the Kiva. And then imagine deciding to leave. That's the part that still hangs in the air. Why leave something so carefully built? Now, let's look at the present conditions. On the positive side, Aztec Ruins National Monument is well preserved. The National Park Service manages it carefully. The Great Kiva has been reconstructed based on strong evidence, giving visitors a rare chance to step inside a space that feels close to original. Paths are marked clearly. Signs explain history in simple ways. The site is clean and respected. Because it is located near a modern town, it is easier to visit than Chaco. That means more people can learn about this history. Schools bring students. Families walk through. The story continues. There is also growing respect for native perspectives. The site works with modern Pueblo tribes, recognizing the cultural connection. It is no longer treated as a lost civilization. It is understood as part of living heritage. But there are negatives too. Weather is always a threat. Freeze and thaw cycles in winter can crack stone. Rain slowly erodes walls. Even careful foot traffic wears down ancient ground. Because the site is close to town, modern development surrounds it. You can sometimes hear traffic while standing among thousand-year-old ruins. That contrast feels strange. It breaks the sense of isolation. Climate change is another concern. Stronger storms and shifting weather patterns can damage fragile structures. Preservation takes constant work and funding. There is also the challenge of interpretation. For many years, early archaeologists dug into sites without the respect we see today. Some artifacts were removed. Some information was lost. We can't go back and undo those early mistakes. Even now, there are limits to what we know. Without written records, much depends on careful study and oral traditions. Some knowledge is sacred and not shared publicly. That means full understanding may never come. Standing inside the Great Kiva today, you feel something different from Chaco. Chaco feels massive and remote. Aztec feels grounded and connected to water. It feels like a place that tried to carry something forward. In my opinion, Aztec ruins shows us how cultures adapt during change. It might not be as famous as Chaco, but it represents resilience. People did not simply disappear when one center declined. They moved, they rebuilt, they continued. The mystery is not just why it ended. The mystery is how these communities stayed connected across distance and time without modern communication. How they shared ideas, how they maintained identity. Today, Aztec Ruins National Monument remains open and protected. The Great Kiva stands reconstructed. The stone walls still form clean lines against the sky. Visitors walk quietly through the courtyard. The nearby town lives its daily life just beyond the ancient walls. The ruins are stable for now, but always vulnerable to time and weather. Preservation efforts continue. Native communities remain connected. Researchers still study. The silence of the stone holds its secrets. And just like Chaco, Aztec Ruins refuses to give us the full story. Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument. Picture this. You're hiking through a quiet forest in southwestern New Mexico. The air smells like pine. A river moves gently below you. Birds echo through the canyon. It feels peaceful, almost too peaceful. Then you look up. High inside a natural cave in the cliff wall, you see stone rooms built into the rock itself. Not one or two, but dozens. Hidden, protected, watching over the canyon from above. This is Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument. And the mystery here is not just how they were built. It's why people only stayed for a short time and then vanished. The cliff dwellings were built around the late 1200s, roughly between 1275 and 1300. That's only about 25 years of occupation. In ancient history, that's nothing. It's like building a house, living in it for a short while, and then walking away forever. Why would anyone go through the effort to build homes inside cliffs, then leave so quickly? Let's step into the story. The people who built these dwellings were part of the Mogollon culture, closely related to other Pueblo groups in the southwest. They used stone and mud mortar to create small rooms tucked deep into 5 large caves. When you stand inside those caves today, you can still see the walls. Some doorways are small and square. The ceilings are blackened from ancient cooking fires. You can almost imagine smoke drifting upward thousands of years ago. But here's something important. These caves were not carved out. Nature created them. The people simply used what was already there. That tells us something. They were practical, smart. They understood the land. Living inside caves had benefits. The rock overhang protected them from rain. The walls helped control temperature, cooler in summer, warmer in winter. From the cave openings, they could see the canyon below. That gave them a view of anyone approaching. Which brings us to another mystery. Were they hiding? The late 1200s was a time of change across the southwest. Chaco Canyon had already declined. Other large communities were shifting. Droughts hit the region hard. Some areas experienced conflict. It's possible the people of Gila moved here seeking safety. The cliffs would have offered protection. From above, it would be hard for enemies to attack easily. But here's the strange part. There is little strong evidence of major battle here. No massive burn layers, no piles of weapons, no clear signs of destruction. Instead, it looks like they simply left. Again, that pattern keeps appearing in ancient New Mexico sites. Build, leave, leave. So what was happening in those 25 years? Archaeologists found pottery, tools, and everyday items. These were not temporary shelters. Families lived here. Children grew up here. Food was cooked here. Stories were told here. But farming inside a canyon isn't simple. The Gila River below provided water, but growing enough food in rugged land would have been challenging. Drought during this period likely made it worse. One theory is migration. Many Pueblo oral traditions speak of movement. Groups did not stay in one place forever. They moved when conditions changed. Maybe the Gila cliff dwellings were part of that journey, a stop along the way. Another theory connects the site to social changes happening across the region. As large centralized systems broke apart, smaller communities may have formed. Some may have chosen defensive or hidden locations. There's also something emotional about this place. Unlike massive stone cities like Chaco, Gila feels personal. The rooms are smaller. The caves feel close and enclosed. When you stand inside, you can almost feel daily life more clearly. You notice how quiet it is. That silence adds to the mystery. Why leave such a protected, beautiful place? Some experts believe prolonged drought made farming impossible. Others think populations consolidated into larger pueblos closer to stable rivers like the Rio Grande. It may not have been one dramatic event, but a gradual decision to move toward better opportunity. Now let's talk about today. Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument is one of the more remote ancient sites in New Mexico. Getting there requires driving through winding mountain roads. That isolation is both positive and negative. On the positive side, the remoteness protects the site. It doesn't receive massive tourist crowds. The surrounding Gila wilderness keeps the landscape wild and natural. When you stand there, it still feels ancient. You hear wind and birds, not city noise. The Park Service has done a good job preserving the dwellings. Visitors can walk into some of the caves, but paths are controlled. The stone walls are monitored for damage. Information signs explain the history clearly. The forest around the monument adds to its beauty. It's not just a desert ruin, it's part of a living ecosystem. Rivers still flow. Trees still grow. But there are real concerns. Wildfires are a major threat in this region. In recent years, large fires have burned parts of the Gila National Forest. Fire can damage structures directly or cause erosion afterward. After a burn, heavy rains can wash away soil and weaken foundations. Climate change increases these risks. Hotter temperatures, longer droughts, stronger storms. Erosion is constant. Even the natural caves slowly change over time. Rock can crack. Small pieces fall. Tourism, while limited, still creates wear. Footsteps inside ancient rooms add up over decades. Touching walls can slowly damage surfaces. And then there's funding. Remote parks often struggle with budgets. Preservation requires money and staff. Still, compared to many ancient sites worldwide, Gila remains in relatively stable condition. When you visit, you feel something very human. These were not giant power centers. These were homes. Families living inside stone rooms, cooking, sleeping, raising children. In my opinion, Gila Cliff Dwellings feels less like a lost empire and more like a pause in a long journey. It represents adaptation, people choosing safety, people responding to change. The mystery isn't dramatic like hidden treasure or vanished armies. It's quieter. It's about why a community chose to build in a cave and then quietly move on. Today, the site remains open to visitors. The cliff dwellings still stand inside the protective caves. The forest surrounds them. The Gila River still flows nearby. Wildfires and climate shifts remain ongoing risks. Preservation efforts continue. The area remains peaceful and remote. And when you stand inside those ancient rooms, looking out over the canyon, you realize something powerful. The stone walls may be silent, but the questions are still very much alive. If you enjoyed exploring these incredible ancient mysteries with me, Don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with fellow history and adventure lovers, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating journeys into the past. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story, and join our community as we uncover the secrets of the world's most mysterious places. Your support helps us bring more amazing adventures straight to you.